Shut up and sit down.
Podcast, everybody. I am Nate Dogg, and we have, as always, the big Texan, Jim Hoffarth. You're going to notice a little bit of a difference going on today because we are ramping up and getting ready for the historic May 13th show at the Aviator Hotel in St. Louis for the Fan Fest, and Jim's going after the title, heavyweight title. We do not have a special guest. Jim, you set something up or you have something going on? What's going on? Oh, and we have a little bit of controversy we'll discuss also a little bit later.
Yeah, so since everyone's kind of geared up for this show and, doing their, preparing, going to the gym, going to work out, everything else, I couldn't get anyone particular to actually hop on tonight. If anyone knows, we actually record this pretty late at night. And then due to Nate's editing and everything, he posts it on a different day. So it's kind of hard to get, someone tied down for this time slot. But I did throw an open invitation into our Facebook locker room chat. So I threw the phone number out there and I said, if anyone gets time, they're more than welcome to hop on, and gave them the time frame that we're going to be on here. So I know Bobby is running a little behind, so Bobby, of course, will jump in, and we can talk about his match that's coming up. But you never know. I ain't guaranteeing any surprises or anything, but I'm hoping that someone can shimmy out a little time and actually get on, because we got one hell of a card this weekend.
Special guest.
Well,
let's discuss the card a little bit, Jim. Who's on the card this weekend for SICW and for the wrestling? We know who's there for the Fan Fest. We can talk about that. But what's the card look like? Okay, who are the legends are on the card? Which legends are going to be wrestling on the 13th?
Well, the state of Missouri, actually, you have to have a license to be able to wrestle, be able to referee, actually be able to do anything regarding the ring. To be in it, to touch the ring, you have to be licensed. So a lot of the legends, they're just in here for one night only. So a lot of the legends, plus they're kind of getting up in age, so you don't really want them in the ring, either way. But there is going to be one that I know of, and that's Luke from the Bushwhackers. There's Bobby.
Hey, Bobby, welcome to the podcast.
What podcast?
You seem like you're running from somebody.
So Luke from the Bushwhackers. Luke from the Bushwhackers, he's going to be in the 30-man battle royal. So he's the only legend that I know that's going to be on the show. But then again, we're going to have. You mean like Bob Orton?
Bob Orton.
Yeah, so Bob Orton's going to be there, but he's not going to wrestle. Tony Atlas is not going to be there, and Bob doesn't have a Missouri license.
Okay.
So, yeah. So Luke is going to be the one that I know that's going to be in the Battle Royal. Of course, he's a legend. And then we have Cyrus from the NWA. I think his name is Cyrus.
Bobby, you're an NWA fan. What's his name? The legend.
Cyrus fan.
But we're going to have an NWA guy there.
I think it's Silas, not Cyrus.
Cyrus?
I thought I heard when we were practicing promos, Reddit kept calling him out like it's a practice thing.
Right. He's going against Niles Plunk. Plunke. some people call him Plunk A or Plunk. But Niles, he's been on WWE programming before. They had him as an extra. He's actually worked camera for them. He's worked New Breed. He's worked down in Arkansas. One of the times me and Attila clashed down in Arkansas, Niles was on that card as well. I do believe he's one of the head trainers down there, that he trained some of the rookies down there for them. But so those two are going to go at it. We do have, of course, Bobby's match. Bobby's going against Sean Vincent. Stipulation that the intern's not going to be out there,
Or
Glenn Williams isn't going to be out there. We have a 6-man tag, which is going to be, of course, Jason Breed, Curtis Wilde, Night Train Gary Jackson, and they're going to go against
LA Hustlers.
LA Hustlers and Joe Helms. So that's going to be a 6-man tag. We got a New Breed match. This is kind of a joint venture with New Breed as well. So the heavyweight champion for New Breed, which is a doctor, but he's kind of like one of those mental doctors. I forgot what his actual name is, but so he's like Dr. Isaac Yankem back in the WWF days. How Jerry the King Lawler had his demented dentist, and that's basically what this guy is, except for he's not a dentist, he's actually a doctor. But he's going against a guy that we've actually had at SICW.
El Diablo?
Mexican, El Diablo. So those two are going to go at it. So El Diablo has a chance to win the New Breed heavyweight title. Of course, we got the 30-man battle royal, which Bobby's going to repeat in. There we go. We got the Bruiser Brody, Tony Costa, Larry Madison Cup right there.
Make us proud, buddy.
I'm playing on it. 30-man, it's bigger than it's ever been before, and it's just going to make it that much bigger when I win it.
Right. Talking about that. So Herb, on another podcast that he joined me on Sunday, was trying to talk about how he's going to do that battle royal, because 30-man in that ring might not be able to happen right away. So I don't know if it's going to be like a Royal Rumble style where every 30 seconds another guy comes out, or if it's going to be a style, because I've seen it before, that once someone gets thrown over, then another guy comes out. So we're not 100%
if you have 30 in there, it's going to be hard to throw someone out when you're like this.
True. But normally, if it's like that style of a match, then you normally start off with like 10 people, maybe even a little fewer. But you start off with a group, and then, like I said, as one gets tossed over, another one comes out. And I think that would be great, especially, Bobby, if you're one of the later entries, say 28 or 29 or even 30. You'll be fresh and everyone else is going to be winded and ready to go, and you can just go in there and clean house.
It would definitely be the advantage. It would definitely be the advantage to come in that late, but I'm excited. Like, all these people coming in, I want to mix it up with them.
That's true. There's going to be some fellow Texans there. There's going to be 4 guys from the Dory Funk Academy. He's sending them up. So we get to see.
I've wrestled one of Dory's former champions, Luke Spencer, I think his name was. Dory trains them right. Like, they're tough as nails down there.
Well, I think I want to say the name is the Funkin' Dojo or something like that. But Dory, being taught by Dory Funk, Terry's going to show up there, and all the people that Dory's trained that probably stops by. I mean, that's got to be an awesome academy to join. So anyone out there, if you're looking for, to get your foot in the door, I would say either the Ace Academy, get trained by Bob Orton, or go down to Florida and get trained by Dory Funk. I mean, that's going to be two top of the lines. Plus, you got the one down in Tennessee. That's the trainer is Kane and Dr. Tom Pritchard. I mean, that's three places right there if you need to get your foot in the door, want to get your foot in the door.
I didn't know Kane helped train with Pritchard.
Yeah, so it's a joint venture with those two. Pritchard is like the main one. Kane's the mayor, so he's got other job duties, but he does go back and forth and help Tom train. I mean, that's normally too. If you
somebody's popping in.
We might have a special guest here. That's E.
That's who I think it is. He's special, all right.
Well, until he shows his face, I guess we'll just keep talking.
For all the training schools Jim mentioned, I will be putting the links in the description. So anybody who's watching that wants to give it a shot, just click the links. It'll take you right to them, and check them out.
Yeah, definitely. I've had a couple friends train down in Tom Pritchard's school, and I know that's class act. And
oh my God, it's Satan!
Oh,
that's
I'm here. Look at this, big Texan. Look at this. You get to talk to me 2 days before the big event, before May 13th, when Attilla Khan takes you and beats you to a bloody pulp in the middle of the ring for a Texas death match. Gentlemen, Bobby, the pleasure's all yours. Good evening.
When I put that phone number out there to try to get someone on, I was hoping someone a little better, higher caliber than Mr. Stephen E.
Well, Texan, are you fool? Are you a fool, my friend? You put that number out there thinking that I wasn't going to come on here? We've got 2 days, pal. 2 days before before you get in the ring with the greatest wrestler, the most dangerous wrestler on God's green earth, Attilla Khan. And in 2 days, he's going to beat you and leave you in the middle of the ring a bloody pulp, pal. That's what's going to happen.
Texan, I got to give the devil his due. He does manage a hell of a group in Devastation Incorporated, but how's he going to react when you take that title off of his champion?
I've done told you, Stephen, a few times that I'll be glad to pour whiskey over Attila's head to wake him up after I knock him out with my lariat. I don't know what else to say to you except for this Saturday when I show you and the world that I'm going to beat Attilla Khan and I will be the next Classic Championship champion. Man, I can't believe you have enough balls to get on my podcast and talk crap.
Texan, I got enough balls to get on your podcast and tell you that May 13th, it's over for you, pal. Your last chance. That's it. When this match is done, it's over. You'll never get another shot at this championship again. If it's over my dead body, I've got attorneys that are looking into this. I know that the deck is getting stacked against me. It has been brought to my attention that there's multiple Texans that have called you to offer up advice. There's even a Texas, one of the greatest referees in the history of professional wrestling out of Texas. James Beard is going to be the official in our match. I know that the deck is stacked against us, but it doesn't matter, you see, because at the end of the day, you're going to hear that 10 count and you're going to be unable to get up and answer. And then what you're going to hear, Big Texan, is and still SICW Classic Heavyweight Champion.
Well, I got to give you credit. Got to give you some credit, Satan. You had the balls to get on, but where's Attilla? Is he scared? He didn't come on with you?
Attilla doesn't have time for this. Attila's doing big things right now. He's training. You see, unlike the Big Texan, he's taking this match very, 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 very serious, and he's training. You see, I did a podcast 3 days ago, and they were asking me, well, what are you going to do? What's the game plan? I'm not going to come out here and tell you people what the game plan is, because if I did that, then you guys would know. Then you guys would expect it, and that's not going to happen. You're not going to catch that from me. That's very, very, very stupid to think somebody of my caliber is going to come out here and lay out what we're going to do on May 13th. It's not going to happen. But Big Texan, May 13th, buddy, you're done. It's over.
So you said the deck is getting stacked against you. It sounds to me more like it's becoming a level playing field. How do you think the deck is getting stacked against you?
What are you talking about, Bobby? I'm talking about people like Stan the Lariat Hansen reaching out to the Big Texan and giving him advice. I'm talking about people like Brian Knobs and Jerry Sags. I'm talking about people, JBL, for God's sakes. JBL reached out to him to give him some advice. They don't need to get into any of our business. We're Devastation Incorporated. We run the show. They can just ride off into the sunset and do what they do, and wherever they're at. They can go to Bermuda. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that we're going to walk out, because my investors, they would not be happy if we walked out of there without that SICW Classic Championship. And that's not going to happen, because trust me when I say this, what my investors want, they get. And they want us to walk out victorious Saturday night.
Again, I'm just hearing
the last time. No, Bobby, hold on. Bobby, hold on. I told you Sunday that if you didn't like America, you didn't like where you are, you didn't like Texas, you can actually go back home. Because I tell you, you think the deck is stacked against you. Like Bobby said, it's just a level playing field. You have so many henchmen that you have capability of getting and interfering in our match. You even said that you would interfere in the match. I have people protecting me. I have a legit Hall of Famer referee that's going to call this thing right down the middle. I have no doubt that I'm going to be able to knock Attila out and actually win that Classic Championship. Man, I cannot believe you got on my podcast. I tell you, in 2 days, if you interfere in my match, you will probably get the same outcome as Attila. I have no problem giving you the lariat as well.
I tell you what, Texan, you know I'm not a licensed performer, and if you put your hands on me, I will sue you. I will come after you legally, and I will make sure to take every dime that you have. So I'm going to end it at that, because quite frankly, you've wasted enough of my time already. So I'm going to end it with this. On May 13th in St. Louis at the Aviator Ballroom, a Texas death match. And that's what you're going to get, a Texas death match. Everybody out there, I hope they're not sure. I hope they're not expecting a wrestling match, Texan, because that's not what they're going to get. They're going to get a fight. And Bobby D, you, my friend, you better stay out of my way. And he's been saying that you're going to have his back. You better keep your nose out of my business, Bobby.
100%.
That's not going to be good for you. So with that said, you people have wasted enough of my time. We will see you Saturday night.
Wasted enough of his time. He jumped on our podcast. His time. God, that just fires me up.
I was hoping for somebody else to pop on.
You're damn right. I had enough of him Sunday night. Sunday night, we went back and forth for 2 hours on how he has a game plan. So I had to rebuttal everything. Well, you don't know what me and JBL's talked about. You don't know what me and Stan Hansen's talked about. I didn't even let him know about the ref. He actually jumped off because he got his little panties in a knot. And after he was off, that's when I jumped in and said, you know what? You done forgot the special referee is a Texan. So, you know, to me, I think the playing field is leveled. You know, having you, Bobby, and having Gary, I know you guys will have my back in case Peyton Ayers jumps in, case who's a Sheik Prater, and Derek Stone. Man, I don't know. I cannot wait until this Saturday to prove myself.
I'll come out of the press area to run down there to help out.
9 months we've been going back and forth, trading blows and trading victories. And I finally earned a second chance to go after this belt, a belt that he's screwed me out of twice already now. I don't know where we go from here. What do you got plans for your match? Because I'm like fuming over mine.
Well, with my match, it's all about just one-on-one with Sean Vincent. Finally, we've had his little minions, Terrence and Phillip, Intern and Glenn Williams interfering in the matches, and they're barred from ringside. So I get my rematch one-on-one with Sean Vincent. No interference from those two, and Vincent's going to learn real quickly that it's harder to win a title, but even harder to defend a title, because I'm taking that title back.
All right, you better. But to be fair to Glenn Williams, I mean, the only kind of show he can put on is by running in. He doesn't put one on when he's wrestling.
Well,
You know,
I'm hoping the Top Guns. Well, again, he's barred from ringside, so I really don't have to worry about him. But I will be glad to see the Top Guns lay him out anyway. Early in the night.
I tell you, Bobby. Glenn Williams. I think he's only a one-trick pony. I think his skill is being on the mic and cutting promos. I don't think he has wrestling skill in him because, you know, no secret. I helped train with Bob on Tuesday nights for the Ace Academy, and he hasn't been there in months. I mean, I know he had last week. He interfered. I tell you, he hasn't been down there in months, and then just out of the blue, he slides in and slides into the ring and sucker punches Brandon and Joey. But you know, of course, as soon as me and Bob have seen that, you know, I got up in the ring and grabbed him, and Bob was yelling at him, and we got him the hell out of there. But
he posted that video, and I asked him in a comment. I said, you know, Texan grabbed you by the back of the neck. You got out of there real quick.
yeah, you're damn right. I mean, it's something if he wants to shut his mouth and come in and train and learn and, you know, I tell everyone, you know, when you come in here to train, you put all your beefs aside. You come in here, you work out, you train, you learn, you get better. And then if you have problems with someone, you take it out on them when you're booked in a match. Yeah. You don't do the cheapskate way of sucker punching them or sucker clotheslining them. I didn't train him to be like that. Ever since Sean Vincent has got into him, yeah, he's like a totally different person. So.
And I take nothing away from Sean Vincent. He is very formidable. Dude's been around a long time. He's wrestled all different kinds of styles, not just seen them. He's traveled all of the U.S. Like, he knows what the hell he's doing, and he's putting some of those bad habits into Glenn, and hopefully they don't stick.
I mean, he was on our podcast not too long ago, and, you know, he actually handled himself with dignity, I guess, when he was on the podcast. But I think ever since, for the most part. Yeah, well, I mean, that was before him and Bobby got into it, and before Glenn helped Sean Vincent steal the belt. I mean, so we know that he toured all over the U.S. We know he was in GCW, Gateway Championship Wrestling. You know, one of his best friends is Delirious, which is, I don't know if he still is in Ring of Honor, but he was like the head trainer for Ring of Honor. So, you know, I get what you're saying. You're not taking a blind eye to him. I'm still aggravated. I can't believe someone like Stephen E. would get on this damn podcast.
I didn't think he was a part of the locker room chat.
He's not a wrestler. I don't think he should have, unless another wrestler, you know, gave him the phone number.
I don't think he's in the locker room chat. I think he just has ways to get in places he shouldn't be.
I mean, normally in the locker room chat, it's really not a chat. It's some place that you can go and check to see if any dates have been added or any of, you know, I would say dates canceled, but we've never had a date cancel. But so, yeah, kind of see where you're booked and who you're going to go against. Sometimes we don't know who we're going to go against, but at least we know that we got a booking. Like May 13th, you need to be at the Aviator Hotel. So something like that. So, I thought, we've had a lot of people on the show. I mean, this is 19 or 20?
20.
So I was thinking, why not, just have an open forum. I just didn't think.
That would be it.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about something else that's going to piss you off even more. So evidently the high school games continue in this, I wouldn't say particularly in this area, but some unfortunate person decided to put some things on the internet that are wholly and completely untrue. And we need to, I don't know if we need to, but I want to at least come to the defense and correct some of the ignorant, childish statements that have been said.
Well, let me start with, and I posted this on there's a place that posted an article, and I'm not even going to give them advertising who it was, but they only talked to one side's opinion and then posted it like it was a fact-finding article. Like, oh, all this shock value stuff. They never once talked to a single person from the other side or listened to even our 25-mile rule podcast from, like, our most viewed podcast, where they could have gotten a lot of that information. So for them to call themselves, like, trying to post, like, a journalistic type article is ridiculous in the first place.
And no, it's not required.
He came across like we're stuck in a 25-mile rule. We're the ones that actually created that rule. The thing is, it's protecting us. If we were to work for Herb, and like, picture me, I'm in a title run, the biggest title of my career. I'm chasing this title, and say I took a booking within 15 miles from the SICW building. If I took that booking and, let's say they had a 201 against me and say I got hurt, well, what's to say that now, since I'm hurt, I can't go after this title that I've been 9 months deep in, going after? It's a way for us to protect ourselves, to protect us, from because I'm going to tell you a story. There was a story about, well, there's a couple. All right, so let's pick Stan Hansen now. Great guy. Was once the AWA champion. Vern Gagne was the promoter there. Stan made most of his money in Japan. Well, there was a point when he was the champion and he was already scheduled to go to Japan and work and get all that good money. Japan paid really, really well. Well, Vern got mad at Stan and said, hey, you're not here defending our championship, so we're going to strip you of it. Send me the belt back. And you can look it up on YouTube or Google, and there's stories about it. Stan was so pissed because he was the champion, but he was also over in Japan working as well. So he ran over the AWA belt, repeatedly destroyed it, and sent it back. So, and there's other stories of, I want to say it was one of the Von Erichs. Oh, no. Ric Flair told this story about how if you're the champion and you were going to some place that you weren't the champion of, some people get jealous, and while you're out wrestling or while you're out in the bathroom, they're searching through your bags and peeling pieces of the championship belt off. So it's protecting us. If we wanted to go wrestle for these other places, yes, we could. But why would we when we have stuff going on at SICW? It doesn't. It makes sense on our end. We're not held captive.
Yeah, well, not only that, that's one question I was going to ask both of you that was in this particular hit piece. I won't say an article because there's no journalistic integrity to it. But even worse, what if you're wrestling when you're on the title run in this organization and you're wrestling for another one within 15 miles or 25 miles and you lose?
Hey,
That
slip on the
diminishes the title for the one that you're in. It makes it, I mean, how could you lose to this other organization and then win the title in the one that you're making a title run in? It diminishes that title.
I say Herb would have to put you back at the bottom. Like there's no doubt.
Right. And we talked about this. Was it CJ Shine?
Yeah.
Yep.
CJ
So
Shine.
CJ Shine.
It was on that Crime Fighter YouTube channel and you can go back and look at it. I put the times and dates and all that, but he was wrestling at MMWA, and they're talking about, oh, he just won the Dynamo something title last month, and then he lost to Cayman 3 minutes after that, after they said that.
Yeah, and all of a sudden that Dynamo title is worthless. It doesn't mean anything now. Why would you do that to your organization? Now, going back to that
Why would
question.
you do it to yourself?
Yeah. Now, in this hit piece, see, even the dog, Bobby, your dog agrees.
That wasn't my dog.
Yeah.
Mine took off and they heard it.
In this hit
That's a
piece,
Texas dog.
it's a Texan dog. That's why it's so deep.
You're right.
He's chewing.
In this hit piece, it said, you guys are trapped. Now, Bobby and the Texan, are you guys trapped in SICW?
Nope. We have the freedom to work wherever we want. That's it. Like, if we don't want to obey the 25-mile rule, there is no contract stopping us from leaving SICW.
Yeah, we're not contracted or anything like that. I've wrestled out in Arkansas. I've wrestled out in Kansas, Missouri. New breed wrestling, mid-states wrestling. If I wanted to, I can go out and wrestle where I want. But in my eyes, the SICW Classic Championship belt is the top prize in this area.
Yep.
And I am shooting for that top prize. So why would I want to wrestle anywhere else?
And you're going to do it in the front of 52 legends. No other organization is going to be able to say they can do that.
And that's what, in my opinion, we are the best promotion in the area. Like, nobody is doing what we're doing, going around, working the kind of shows that we're working. We are the top. I know that probably rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but that is what I truly believe.
Well, that's why people secretly talk to Herb about coming in. They'll run their mouth on the computer, but they're on the phone begging. So, I mean, it's just so weird and childish. Everyone talks about how there's so much drama in the Midwest. There's no drama in our locker room.
Nope.
We do have people like Stephen E. and Attila that we have to get by. But when it comes to professionalism, we have it in our locker room. You don't see us bitching about Herb. You don't see us bitching about where we wrestle, or there's too many legends. That was one of the things, too, that someone said, oh, Herb is bringing in 50 legends. I guess their guys aren't going to get paid. Buddy, the legends in our show are two separate things. And I don't work for free. I don't work for the hot dog and the handshake. I done learned my lesson 15 years ago, 17 years ago. I get paid when I wrestle. I don't know about anyone else in their organizations that they work for, but I put my body on the line. I'm going to get paid for what I do. So
I have never once heard about Herb not paying somebody. And if that was the case, I am very confident he wouldn't be around promoting for 50 plus years.
Right, 50 plus. You have legends this time around that's coming in Saturday. They called Herb up, and I was in the same room saying, hey, I was a part of the Wrestling at the Chase. I heard you guys are doing a fan fest. I want to come. And, her be like, well, come on in, it's crazy to say, oh, there's so many legends. Their guys aren't going to get paid. But you know what? Some of them boys are already bought tickets. I know for fact some of them bought tickets to the Fan Fest. So they can run their mouth. But when it comes to Saturday, they're going to show up and, please, sir, can I have this autograph? It just drives me insane.
Well, I mean,
This whole show tonight, I'm sorry, this whole show, I'm just being rubbed the wrong way from the get-go.
There's another part of that article that I've never heard this rumor before that drove me nuts too. Apparently, Herb is like Vince McMahon, where they said he's paying people to no-show and then come to our shows.
yeah, well,
Like,
Herb wants to work with other organizations.
who has shown up at our shows that they could be even referring to from other promotions? They've had Prater and Beckham, and neither one have ever alluded to that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, wherever this guy got his information, like, he definitely needs to start fact checking before he starts publishing stuff.
I think he's just making shit up, to be honest with you.
Oh, I have no doubt that there are 2 or 3 individuals at that other promotion that probably said it. But they pulled that information straight out of their ass.
And that's the bad thing, because over the weekend they got so much publicity for running their mouths. And now we are taking the time out on our podcast to talk about it. So they're getting more publicity, which is stupid. So let's just set the record straight. We get paid to wrestle. We love the legends coming in. I love being able to have a beer with a legend and him telling me some stories of on the road.
I say, you and me plan on being there all day to hang out with them and all night.
Right.
Well, all 3 of us will be.
Well, and then there's one subject that we haven't touched on, and that's the whole Tony Costa. They're saying that Herb has no right of putting Tony Costa on the poster, that he wasn't friends with Tony Costa. Man, Broadway is where me and Bobby, different times, both started at, working
Under
for Tony Costa. In every show that we did, you guaranteed one thing: Herb and Tony Costa were sitting right next to each other on the stage, watching the show, even talking, doing a little color commentary on the show. There's been plenty of promos that they would cut before the show even started to get people in the door together. I posted.
I have a short on our podcast that has Tony and Herb next to each other, and they get up and scoot off from the table because the wrestling, knocked the table over outside of the ring.
I can't speak for you, Texan, but I met Herb through Tony because of him being at the Broadway shows and, always up there giving a hand and then being good friends.
Right. I'll try to say it again. I posted a picture of Tony Costa wearing a shirt that says MMWA/SICW Wrestling. That's how close they were. Tony and Herb were best friends. There's not a podcast that you can get from Herb that he doesn't talk about driving, from God knows how far with Tony and both wives in the back seat, hitting show to show to show to show. Look, we didn't start a Tony Costa Battle Royal. We are adding legends and honoring legends to our Battle Royal. Our Battle Royal started out Bruiser Brody. And then, unfortunate, 2 things happened. Larry Matisick passed away, so we added him into our Battle Royal. And then another unfortunate. Oh, yes. And then the other unfortunate, Tony, Costa passed away. So we just added him on to our Battle Royal. as just a big memorial.
And you can even back up from there. You can even back up from there, and there are pictures of Tony Costa at the Bruiser Brody Memorial Cups.
And Jim, remind everybody who gave permission for SICW to put Tony Costa on the poster and a part of the memorial.
So Tony only had one son, and his son he's seen all these posts this Saturday, and he posted saying, "I am Tony's son. I give permission a long time ago to her to have a memorial for my father." And so
he
it
was
should be
at the first one that Tony was on. There's a picture of that as well.
Yeah, so that should be open and shut right there. We have permission. We're just honoring a legend. He's a Midwest legend. He started so many people in this area. And we know MMWA is honoring him as well. And they have every right to. But
You
so
should
do
want
we.
him to be honored by as many as possible because he has touched so many careers and personal lives. Honor him.
Right.
You honor him. We honor him. It's separate. All good.
All right, I don't know about you guys, but the more we talk, it seems like the more all three of us are getting aggravated at the situation. So I really don't think we can do anything that's really productive unless we want to devolve it into, some really good drama we can put out there. But,
I would say we should not stoop to their level and give them any advertising.
Right.
that's why I did it nameless, because I refuse to give ignorant little children like that a place. Some people will. There's some news places in St. Louis that will, but that's all they do anyway.
Yeah, I would say let's go over our May 13th card and leave them in the dust.
Right. Something, I was on a podcast Sunday, and it got asked of me who I wanted to see this Saturday. And I gave a couple of answers. My first answer is definitely Greg Gagne. Again, I just talked about the whole Stan Hansen thing, which Stan Hansen's going to be there too. So I wonder how that's going to work out. But I want to hear Greg Gagne's stories. His father was Vern Gagne, the sole promoter of AWA. And AWA at one time had everyone that eventually, Vince stole and got so popular. So I want to know why they didn't keep a hold of them, why they didn't keep a hold of Hulk Hogan, why did they let Legion of Doom go? Why did they let the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty go? Jesse Ventura, Bobby the Brain Heenan, all these legends that we know of today, were in AWA. And at the time frame, you had like three major companies. You had AWA, you had WWF, and then you had the Crockett's. And the Crockett, you can even say Memphis, the Lawler group, Jarrett Lawler group. So, I would say four. I didn't put St. Louis in there because the Crockett's had more land or more area, and St. Louis was kind of part of the Crockett's because it was all under the NWA banner. So you had, four, major companies. And, of course, history wrote itself where Vince basically took it over. But I want to hear his side of the stories on all that stuff. And then, I will always tell you, I'm a WWF kid at heart. So I want to see the tugboat. I want to see Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Man, I become pretty good friends with Jimmy Hart. He was... I did a little video with Jimmy Hart, and you can go on my YouTube, and we have fun. If you guys want to do anything for Jimmy Hart, bring him some White Castles. That's his favorite food. Every time he comes to St. Louis, he's got to stop at White Castles because they don't have that down in Florida, and that's where Jimmy Hart. That's where he lays his head. hey, they affect me, so I don't eat them that often. I know that's probably your favorite food, Bobby, or one of your favorite foods, but
That's my oldest son's and my tradition after wrestling shows. We go get some White Castle.
and I'm so glad I don't hang out with you two after wrestling.
Yeah, that's punishment after you took punishment.
In WCW, one of my favorite tag teams was Doom, Butch Reed and Ron Simmons, and their manager was Teddy Long. So I would love to get to meet Teddy Long and hear some stories with them. And of course, Ron Simmons and JBL, the acolytes in WWF or WWE. There's so many stories. That's why I can't wait for this weekend. But so my question to you two: who are you looking forward to meeting? And Nathan, if you had the opportunity to get someone on the podcast out of the legends, who would you be most interested in to interviewing?
Victoria for all the boys. No, no,
I might stumble over my words a lot on that one.
Yep. Have to send the charmer Jim over. She'll bring him to our table, or he'll bring her to the table. Said that backwards. But no, growing up, a favorite of mine always was Ted DiBiase. Him and his dollar jackets. It was always fun.
I can tell you because we have had him in a few times. He is one of the best legends to talk to. There are a lot of people that will come in that you can tell they don't truly want to be there. Ted DiBiase is not one of them. He will talk to you until you walk away.
No, he'll be sitting down. He'll be sitting down with us. So nobody's watching.
Great man to have a conversation with.
He is. Wrestlers have their demons. I went through a spell when I was hurt. You get those scripts from the doctors. I had to overcome that. And not that I'm straight edge like CM Punk or something like that, because I love whiskey, so I love beer. I don't drink it every day. I like to celebrate a good victory. But talking to Ted, I read both of his autobiographies. WWE had their version, which was the watered down, clean cut version. And then, he had his own version, books. I had them both. I read them. And one of the times when he came in, I was able to sit down and talk to him about it. And he'll tell you, he's a preacher nowadays. You can find him at some churches. And here in Belleville, he's actually talked to, his preacher that is his confidant lives here in Belleville. So he does make a couple stops here in Belleville. But I know Fairview Heights and O'Fallon, he's also spoke at some churches. But it was so cool to sit down and talk to him because, his drug of choice wasn't alcohol, wasn't pills, wasn't any kind of drugs. His drug of choice was the female persuasion. So he talked to me about that, and I've actually went to one of his sermons or his guest lectures, and just to hear that side of the business and that side of his life, and how him and his wife was actually able to reconnect, and their bond is stronger than ever. Just to be able to. He's so open, and that's what I'm trying to say. He's so open about his life, and that's why I think he will sit down and talk to you forever until you walk away from him. And that's just how he's changed. Even though he'll still say every man's got a price for the $1 Million Man. Yeah, definitely a good pick. He's a great guy to talk to. I want to throw out there, I do want to speak to my legends, my Texan legends, Stan Hansen, JBL. Black Bart, unfortunately, is not able to make it. He's going through a health scare. So we'll have to drop that 52 down to 51. But JBL has actually stepped up. You know how you go to a fan fest and there is a small fee to get your favorite wrestler to autograph something. Well, JBL is actually donating everything that he makes that night to the Black Bart family to help cover his medical costs.
That's awesome.
Because I told it many times before. Back in the day, you got paid to wrestle. They didn't cover, medical expenses. There was no retirement. I mean, the only retirement comes from action figures and some other merchandise. Because I've talked to Bob Orton Jr. Because every now and then there will be a new figure that comes out, and he says that besides if you were in the long haul where you're able to buy stocks when WWE went public, when you signed your license away for your figures and your merchandise, that was a way that he even said it. That was a way for Vince to try to come up with a retirement plan for his roster. So every time a new Bob Orton figure comes out, or I spoke to Hammer, Johnny Valentine. I'm sorry, that's his dad,
Right.
Rick the Hammer Valentine.
It's like, it threw me off on that one.
Yeah, I talked to him too about it, and they still make a little bit of money off of these figures, so they still get a percentage. And Bob said sometimes you might laugh at that check you get in the mail, but sometimes you're like, "Holy cow! I am glad I have this check in the mail." So I mean, it's awesome that JBL, who definitely doesn't need the money, because anyone who knows JBL, he's an excellent stocks and bonds person. He plays that, and maybe he can give us all some pointers on where to go. If you listen to his podcast, he's got a podcast with
Briscoe.
Huh?
He's got one with Briscoe.
Yeah, Briscoe. Speaking of Jerry Briscoe, we'll just slide this in there. Jerry Briscoe's going to the St. Louis Hall of Fame that night, and he's being inducted by JBL. But if you listen to their podcast, and you can catch it on YouTube, you can catch it on Spotify, he will actually give you some pointers on what stocks and bonds to buy. And he was one of them when this pandemic, the COVID pandemic had started. He was one of them that suggested, I have a feeling, these companies are going to be making a ton of money, with the shots and everything. And he was right, because they brought in millions and billions of dollars. So I wish I would have played that game when he was speaking his mind about it. But I know you got to be excited about the Nasty Boys, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what. There's a lot of them coming in. Did I see Haku was coming in too?
Yeah, Haku, Barbarian.
I've got to meet him twice now, but it'll still be great to just see him again. Like, everybody says Haku, but to me, he will always be Ming. That was his WCW name. Victoria, because she's so gorgeous. She cut that promo with the glasses too. She's even hotter. Don't care.
Oh my God.
Nasty Boys. I know my 12-year-old son. He's not happy that I know about the Nasty Boys, because he has received Pity City quite a few times.
Oh my God.
Buff Bagwell, another big one for me. Lot of great legends, like WCW ones for me. You're WWE guy, I'm WCW guy.
A story about Buff Bagwell. I would love to hear his response about it. When WCW got bought out by WWE, they had Buff up there for a while in Stanford, running some shows, and then all of a sudden you hear he got kicked out. And you can date it back to Jim Ross said that he had his mom call him in sick repeatedly and missing shows. So I would love to get his response on if that's true, And if it is true, why? you know, there's other stories about him, and there was a guy in WWE that was like a Cape Crusader.
Hurricane Helms.
Green. Yeah, Hurricane Helms. There's a story saying that Buff did something to Hurricane, and Hurricane came back and whooped up on Buff, and then that's the reason why Buff got fired. So, I mean, which story is true, Buff? Us insiders want to know. But
Try to pry it out of you Saturday.
right.
Or was he trying to focus on his movie career?
X-rated. I don't know if we need to talk about that. You know, even some guys might think down upon these next two guys I'm going to talk about, but the Brooklyn Brawler and Barry Horowitz, you know, a lot of people call them jobbers. I like to call them the standard because a lot of times the Brooklyn Brawler, if you couldn't have a match with the Brooklyn Brawler and he gave you the thumbs down, you were no longer part of WWF. And, you know, so he was the standard that you had to meet. He had to give the okay. So I would love to hear the stories of who he said to and you know who were their names, because sometimes, and I'll have to admit, sometimes you work at a promotion and you know the vibe's not the same or not great, so you move on. So maybe some of those big names went up to WWF, and in some cases it wasn't working out, and then went to WCW and became superstars. You never know unless you ask. So that's going to be one of the questions I'm going to ask him.
Anybody can have an off night. Anybody can have an off night, especially going into such a big show with so much on the line.
Right.
Well, if you know you're going to go against a foundation piece like Barry or the Brooklyn Brawler, you have to. I would imagine bring your A game. Anything less.
Yeah.
Yeah, but your nerves have to be hitting you hard.
You know, there was a story too that Buff brought up, Bagwell, talking about how WWE's ring is so much bigger, and it is. It's not a whole lot bigger. It's a 2020, and I think ours is a 16 or 18. But there's so many different sizes, and I tell the guys when I'm training them, when I'm teaching them how to run the ropes, how to count their steps, because you don't want someone to hit one rope and run to the next one and have, I call them like Flintstone feet, where they like hopping. You know, it looks like shit. They can trip, they can fall, they can hurt themselves. So I teach them how to space out their footing to be able to hit the ropes back and forth, you know, and try to do it in like 3 steps. But you know, if you go up to a 20-foot ring, of course it's going to be more than 3 steps, you know, and you got to get used to it. But I would think after all the rings that he's wrestled in throughout his WCW, you know, era, you would think he would be used to those bigger rings, or be able to adapt, you know, real quick. So again, all these stories I'm coming up with that we need answers to.
We'll get them Saturday. Hell or high water,
Right.
we'll get them.
The Hepners, you know, we got one of them coming in, but you know, there was brothers. There was 2 of them, and they almost look identical. I don't know if they were identical twins or what, but if you guys remember the whole Hogan and Andre thing, where supposedly it was one of the bad twins that counted really fast to give Andre the victory, and then the other one came out, and that's when Hulk Hogan realized, wait a minute here, there's 2 of you. But they were the senior referees for WWF, WWE for the longest time, and then all of a sudden they were gone, and then they popped back up in TNA /Impact. there's got to be a reason for that. You just don't leave as a senior referee, and especially how long they've been in there. They should be in the Hall of Fame by now. Why aren't they in the Hall of Fame? There's got to be some sort of reason of those two questions right there. What happened and why aren't you in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I have a question about referees for both of you. Okay. Whether you're contracted or not, you don't have a retirement plan, you don't have an insurance plan, but what about a referee? Are they the same as the wrestler, or do they sign a contract with a retirement plan? And what do they get differently from a wrestler, if anything?
So it really depends on where you are. So say if you're if you're just doing the territory system, the modern day independents, you probably don't have a contract. You probably just get paid if you show up to the show and ref. In WWE, though, they don't have an entertainment contract, but they do have a contract that's more of the corporate side of things. So they probably do have insurance. They probably do get taken care of a lot better than, unfortunately, some of the wrestlers. Unless you're a Stone Cold, a Rock, a Undertaker, a Cena, or a modern day Roman Reigns. Those guys, they're always going to take care of the top dogs. If you're bringing them in $30 million a year, they're going to pay for you if you blow a bicep. They're going to take care of you because they know that you're going to, in return, make them more money. But for the guys that are on the lower card of things, they might not still have insurance. I don't know. I'm not up there, but I do know they get taken care of a lot better now because there was back in the olden days, they didn't have people in the back to help fix your cuts, your breaks or anything, and now there's people everywhere WWE goes. So if you get hurt in the ring, they come out and get you, and they do what they can there. And then if they have to, they'll, send you out to, a hospital or something. But back then, if you were hurt and you had to wrestle tomorrow, you weren't hurt no more because you needed that payday and you needed to wrestle tomorrow. And now with the whole protocol of brain injuries from chair shots and concussions, they're smart about things now. Because in the modern era, if you look, very rarely do you see someone take a headshot with a chair. Now it's, to the stomach, to the back, to the extremities, the arms, the hands, the legs. But concussions are real. I talked about ones that I had Sunday on how one of them caused my Bell's palsy because I was stupid and I didn't stay awake and I went to sleep on a concussion, and then I woke up, and then that next 2 days was just like hell on earth. Your face slowly drops and you start looking demented. So, they're very smarter when it comes to that. And they try to take care of the wrestlers more now than they ever have. Of course, you got to make it to that. You got to make it to that level. While you're still trying to bust your ass in the independents and get your name known and get yourself out there, you got to keep healthy. Otherwise, you might not make it there. It's one of those things.
And then you mentioned, Isaiah, if you wanted to move on. Isaiah, you mentioned Earl Hebner and Andre the Giant. You have the Andre Giant guru, Chris Owens, coming in too. Be interested in seeing. We've had him on. Interested in seeing what he's going to bring.
Well, I'm hoping he talks about those pictures at English's bar here in Belleville. That he said that he's got some pictures that weren't publicized. That he was going to have be able to show us. So I mean that's awesome. You got Darla that Herb talks a lot about. Darla was born, and then her father took her to her very first wrestling at the Chase show, where she was still a baby, just a few days old, and she's been hooked on wrestling ever since. So she spent her whole life in wrestling, and then now she's a board member to the CAC. And the CAC is the ones that help take care of wrestlers when they're, like back in the day, if you get hurt, there's no place for help for your medical bills. Well, now the CAC is just a place that all the wrestlers try to belong to, and give a yearly donation to help a fellow wrestler that gets hurt nowadays. Or if you're a legend and you're falling on hard times now, they can help you out. So that's awesome that Darla is going to be there. And I believe she's going to
help Black Bart.
I'm sure they are helping back. The thing with the CAC, they don't publicize everything. They don't want. Sometimes they don't want people to know that a legend has fallen on hard times. So secretly, they'll help them out. But sometimes, like a Black Bart, it's well known that he is having medical issues. So, I mean, that's why JBL is giving his money. I'm sure CAC is helping him.
But
what I was going to
wrestlers
say,
and legends especially are larger than life. That's a big reason why you don't advertise something like that often.
right? I believe Darla is getting, and I can stand corrected. And if people get on and correct me, I want to say she's getting the Sam Mushnick Award this year. And that's cool for Darla. Bruiser Brody's widow, Barbara Goodish, is going to be there. Ron
Very
Powers is going to be there. Ron Powers is a very local legend who's wrestled for the big leagues. Bruiser Brody took him to Puerto Rico, took him to Japan, was actually training him. And, after Bruiser had passed, Japan wanted to bring him back over there as Bruiser Brody's son. I mean, when I first got started in wrestling, you could look at Ron Powers and you would think Brody, because they dressed alike, they looked alike, and he was, trained by Brody for a while too. So you got them. Other legends.
Did a commercial with him.
Did you
can't forget your commercials with Ron.
Oh yeah, yes. I thought you were saying that he did a commercial with Bruiser.
No,
and I know Bruiser's done many commercials, but
sorry, that was my extreme close-up, like in what was that 80s movie, Wayne's World?
I don't know. I think the ratings just went down.
Probably.
Ripcord is going to be there. Man, so many people. Bob's going to be there, of course. J.J. Dillon, we didn't even touch on him. Damn. J.J. Dillon, the manager of the Four Horsemen, Ric Flair, depending on who you're talking to, Barry Windham, the Anderson, Arn and Tully. Yeah, Tully. No, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Orly. Oh, man, I'm pronouncing that. Orly Anderson. I might be screwing up his name. But
we'll let you struggle through it.
Right. Thank you, guys.
Yep.
But Lex Luger was part of that clique for a while. Sting was part of that clique for a while. Paul Roma, which a lot of people don't like Paul Roma, but he was part of that clique for a while. But yeah, J.J. Dillon is going to be in the house. And I tell you, me and Bobby hung out with J.J. Dillon last year at the CACs in Las Vegas. And man, his mind, he can still tell you so much about the business. And it's awesome. and he is being inducted into the St. Louis Hall of Fame as well. And he's being inducted by Herb himself. Not that Herb wanted to. Of course, he wants to, but JJ Dillon's daughter is the one that requested Herb to, put JJ in. So I mean, that's awesome. So that's two people going into the Hall of Fame. Another guy who was trained by Bruiser Brody, the Berserker, John Nord. I talked about him too on Sunday. Bruiser Brody worked for WWF and maybe WWF just a handful of times. But the Berserker was trained by Bruiser. Bruiser took him around. As a matter of fact, they both worked for SICW. But in the WWF, he became like a Bruiser Brody lookalike. He had the boots with the fur. He throw out his hand, he'd bark like the dog. He did have horns. That was the only Bruiser Brody never had the horns or the Viking gimmick type thing. Because the Berserker would come out with his long ass sword, in which everyone was like, why are you bringing a sword to a wrestling match?
I think the same thing when I see Drew McIntyre do it.
And not to change the subject, I heard he might be leaving WWE. It's been out there for the last 2 weeks and they were just giving him praise about how sick he was and still showed up for everything that he was obligated to. And he showed up and he worked, he wrestled. And then now the rumor mill is that he is finally fed up with them and he's stepping away. So who knows? I mean, you brought him out, so I had to throw that little bit of knowledge out.
So if you leave, come on down. He won't regret coming down to St. Louis.
Well, most of the time, if they leave WWE, they are almost guaranteed really good money on the independents. So you might not see him signed right away to an AEW or an Impact or NWA because he's got such a great name that people are willing to pay. Kind of like the whole woo-woo man. Matt Cardona. When he got fired from WWE, he just did all the independence he could. Zack Ryder. Went back to his original name, his actual name. And since then, he's won the GCW title. He's won the NWA heavyweight title. He's wrestled at Impact. But he was going around to all the independents, and he'll tell you he's making more money now than when he was a contracted wrestler for WWE. And Cody Rhodes is another one. Cody, on the back of his back brace, when he comes out to wrestle, he wears his back brace, and he normally hands it off to a fan. But on the inside of the back brace, he's got all the independent wrestling places that he worked for between him being fired from. Well, actually, he wasn't fired. He decided to leave WWE, which is very rare. But it was well worth it because at the time his gimmick, Stardust, he didn't care for. So he left, worked all these independents, and made more money than he ever did in WWE. Helped start AEW, and then left that baby, went back to WWE, and now he's probably making really great money now.
He might not like Stardust, but just like his brother, he freaking rocked that gimmick out. And his dad with the polka dots.
Well, yeah.
So when they leave WWE, they need to come down to SICW first, and then sky's the limit after that.
Well, I think that's what Nick Aldis had done. I think when Nick knew his time in the NWA was getting to the point where it was over in his eyes. He started taking more bookings outside of the NWA, and of course he wrestled Attila for the classic championship belt. He was not on the winning side of things, but that's because Stephen E was able to bring out some other people to interfere. Because I actually had Nick's back and went out there and helped defend himself. Me and Curtis Wilde did.
Oh wait, Satan cheated? What is up?
Right. But I think that's what Nick was doing, was working more independence to get his name out, make some more money. And now he just recently signed with the Impact Wrestling. So, he's landed on his feet. And you never say never. Bridges are hardly ever burnt down to the ground when you're a wrestler. And Vince McMahon can tell you that, because as many times as him and Hogan had it out, and he knows he can make money with Hogan, so he'd keep bringing him back. You always heard that the Ultimate Warrior, man, they even made a DVD about how much they hated the Warrior. They still brought him back, and now there's an award that's handed out every year at WrestleMania that's honored with his name. So I mean, it's crazy. No bridge is totally burnt down to the ground when you're a wrestler.
Now, did every promotion not like... What's that, Bobby?
I said, when you can make money off someone.
Yeah,
Right.
Money speaks. Now, did every promotion hate the Ultimate Warrior and the fans just didn't?
Well,
wasn't he difficult to work with?
He was one of those where he came out with a buttload of charisma and drew you in with that.
Yeah, so a lot of people say he wasn't a great worker. Most of his matches were less than 5 minutes. And most of the time he would every time he would run to the ring and be blown up as soon as he got in the ring, because he had to run. So a lot of people
had to run into the ring at this last Royal Rumble. The ring was like a mile and a half long.
Right. A lot of people said that he went off into his own space and time when he did his promos, and his promos are like that. They go off on their own, and you can tell that some people are probably trying to bring him back down to finish it so they can move on. But as a kid, you see that long hair, the muscles, the neon colors of the bands, and the tassels. I mean, I was hooked. But
awesome mullet.
Yeah. But
Is there anybody now that mimics his rope shaking that he would do?
Batista used to do it.
I said Batista used to do it before his power bomb.
Yeah. But WCW tried to make an Ultimate Warrior, and his name was Renegade. No, he didn't, and he eventually got fired and eventually committed suicide because he was full of depression about it. And then they actually hired the Ultimate Warrior, so it kind of weird. But yeah, Renegade was the only one that kind of acted like, not to toot my own horn or anything like that. And I guess it's not toot my own horn because I didn't get the job. Me and Gary Jackson, we went and did a bunch of TV commercials that never made the air. You can't find them. On my Facebook page, you can see some of the black and white pictures. I think one of them is maybe my main picture. But remember when Jack Black had that wrestling movie, that Lucha Libre movie out? Nacho Libre.
Nacho Libre.
There was a whole ad campaign for pork, the other white meat. This is back in the day. many a moons ago. And they hired me and Gary Jackson and had us do all these commercials and had us go through all these wrestling moves. And we thought we had it in the bag. I mean, we filmed all day. We got paid for it. And then I kept, contact with the guy, and he goes, well, at the same time we were doing this in St. Louis, they were also doing it in California. And there was a guy that looked like the Ultimate Warrior, and they went ahead and chose him. So you can actually go back and see the commercials with him in it. But me and Gary Jackson were actually supposed to, I guess we were going for the same role, but we lost out to an Ultimate Warrior lookalike.
And Clone Wars.
Right. Man, so I mean, there's a lot of legends that are coming to town this weekend. Aviator Hotel starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. If you didn't go get your tickets, I got bad news for you. The first 2 rows are sold out. But sicw.org, I highly recommend you get your tickets through them, because the Fan Fest is $27, which is unheard of. That is the cheapest a Fan Fest has ever been. The wrestling show that happens after that is $27. And if you buy them together at that website, sicw.org, you do get a discount. And I think it makes it $42 for the pair of tickets, for one ticket for each show. And between the 2 shows, before, after the Fan Fest and before the wrestling starts, that's when we are doing the induction to the Hall of Fame for J.J. Dillon and I can't believe Jared Briscoe. And Jerry is actually bringing in his son, who wrestled for SICW for a while. His son's going to be there. Yeah.
And I got to throw out there. So I got to throw out there that the Fan Fest and the wrestling show together are cheaper than a lot of other places' Fan Fests that don't even have as many legends.
I figured it out. When WWE came to town, you can buy the rafter seats for $25, but the section right below the rafters were in the $40 mark. So you think of the Savage Center or whatever it's called now, because I'm Scott Trade. Is it Scott Trade? I don't know. But for nosebleed seats, you can spend the money on that, or you can be up and close with over 50 legends and have a wrestling show and see the St. Louis Hall of Fame inductions. And it's from 10 o'clock until probably 10 o'clock at night. Not that you can't leave and go get something to eat, or there's a bar that has food that they can make for you there. That's a whole day. That's a whole day compared to just 3 hours at WWE. So I mean, the price is so cheap. It's so awesome. And GT Collectibles. There's a whole bunch of sponsors. Let's see if this has some of them on here. Wrestling Pro T-shirt shop. There's only 2 I got.
Bush.
Yeah, New Breed. Yeah. So I mean, there's a bunch of sponsors that's helping cover the costs for this, and that's why it is so cheaper.
And I want to throw out there that no matter what you see or no matter what you hear in the rumor mill on the streets, everything has been paid for.
Yes. I mean, even that come out saying, the hotel's got calls. Man, you're not going to get paid for this. They're just going to do this show and up and leave you. Not knowing it's already been paid for. Everything with SICW, Herb Simmons, Nick Ryden, it's top notch. Um, I'm going to do a spoiler. So I was on the phone with the board of the Hall of Fame. They have a board, and I got the privilege of listening to them talk. And they're actually going to do a documentary on the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. And that's actually going to be recorded this Saturday throughout the fan fests, throughout the inductions of JJ. And so there's actually going to be a documentary. There's going to be a crew there that's going to document everything from Saturday. They're going to talk to some of the fans that are there. They're going to talk to some of the wrestlers, the legends, and us. They're going to put that all into a film, and it's going to be an actual documentary. I mean, so that's awesome. That's just great news to hear. It's just one more thing for the city of St. Louis, over the Midwest area, to lay claim for. Wrestling at the Chase was just such a big part, and we haven't even, everything that we talked about, we have not talked about. This is to celebrate the 64th year of Wrestling at the Chase. I mean, that's why we're all doing this. That is the big thing right there. Wrestling at the Chase was such a popular wrestling show, and back when you only had 4 or 5 channels, people were drawn to wrestling, and Sam Mushnick just put on such a professional show that just drew the audience in. I mean, it was one of the highest rated TV shows, and due to the TV show, they were able to draw people into the arenas. So, I mean, it was sellouts after sellouts of the arenas. And Bob Orton, he said it best. There was another show at the History Museum that me and Bob went to because Bob was a guest speaker. And the person who was hosting it asked Bob why St. Louis was the best town for wrestling. And Bob's answer was Sam Mushnick was such a great promoter that he only brought the best of the best to St. Louis. He goes from the beginning of the card to the main event, you had the best wrestlers in the whole county or the whole country. So every match on that card could have been a main event somewhere else.
I've seen her post some old posters, and that's what it looks like. Everything is like a main event match on some of them old posters. Any one of the matches could be moved to the top and sell out.
Yep. And those matches on TV, you can still order those. You can find them on eBay. Wrestling at the Chase. I think there's 12 volumes. There's been rumors for a couple of years that there's a 13th volume that's due out whenever they can finish it up. So I mean, 64 years, we've got to celebrate.
Well, on our podcast, you and Bobby took that rumor and made it a fact. When you asked Herb, is it coming out? And he, said yes. When it's done, it'll be coming out.
The thing with Herb, he's got so much on his plate because Larry Matisek was an author besides a ring announcer, besides a wrestling promoter. Larry, I don't know how many books he's wrote. I know there's at least 3 because I was in his 3rd book. There's just a small little part of me and the Ron Powers situation that we had. But there's a book that was almost finished. They got down to the last chapter before, unfortunately, Larry passed, so he couldn't finish it. But Larry's wife supposedly knows how Larry wanted to finish it, and Herb knows how he wanted to finish it, so they're supposed to come together and finish it together. But it's the difference between Sam Mushnick and Vince McMahon. And that's the whole gist of the book. And Larry Matisek worked for them both. He worked with Sam Mushnick the first part, worked for Vince McMahon the last part, and it's like a comparison: the good, the bad, the ugly of both. Not saying that Sam Mushnick had an ugly, but everyone know he was like an enforcer, and if there ever was a problem, they can come to Sam, and Sam would finish it. So that's out there. He has all the tapes for Bruiser. What's the other Bruiser's name? It's gonna be so bad I can't remember this.
Well, there's
He
Dick
had
the
a
Bruiser
cousin.
and Bruiser Brody.
Who?
Dick the Bruiser and Bruiser Brody.
Dick the Bruiser. That's who it was. I tell you, it's the concussions that I've had, the small bits of memory that I want to have escapes. But he's got.
Or just you guys have so much knowledge you can't remember it all.
You just got to read that and just float around.
Right. So he's got all the tapes from Dick the Bruiser, and he's wanting to make DVDs on those. He's got so much stuff. Plus, our big shows this year. This one coming up this Saturday is, of course, the biggest. But we're also going back to the home of wrestling at the Chase. That hotel, we're going back there, and SICW is wrestling there. And then our MAC show, Missouri Athletic Club, always a great show. That's later on this year. So he's got so much stuff on his plate, and I hope he just can make time for everything, because I would love a volume 13, and he can actually make more volumes on that, because there's so many other matches that he has, but out of like all the greats, he's put all the greats on these individual DVDs. So all the backups, like Bob Orton said, all the opening cards, they never put that on the disc, but they have them all, so they could easily, go 20, 25 volumes if they needed to, if they wanted to, if they had the time to.
Okay,
50 years.
Yep, 50 years, Diamond Jubilee for Herb, 64 for Wrestling at the Chase.
Yep.
We're in an hour 40. How long you guys want to go?
Well, I think we spoke our mind. We had the little interference with Stephen E., which I'm not great about.
Your buddy came in, Stephen E.
Yeah.
That's what I was just saying. Talked about the Hall of Fame. Talked about the wrestling show before you got on there. I was announcing all the card. Well, some of the matches on the card. Talked about the little bullshit going on in the area.
Well, actually, we didn't record that part at the very beginning. We didn't record when we were.
I know, but we talked about it throughout.
We talked a little bit when I was on too. I think the last big thing is everybody needs to go to sicw.org and get their tickets, because this is the place to be Saturday.
And it is really easy to get on the website and order it, guys, because in my day job, I guess you could say, I help people buy their tickets on there with the help from Jim, because I had to call him and go, hey, are they still available? Because these people want them.
Right.
And they were, but they're not anymore.
I would tell everyone, order them on the website. Don't wait to get them at the door, because it's been advertised on SmackDown, WWE SmackDown. Channel 2, Channel 4 is going to do interviews with Herb and blast it out there. It's been in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. So these tickets are selling, and they're selling fast. So I wouldn't roll the dice and try to get them at the door. Go to the website, order them, get the discount, and come meet us.
Like you guys have said, the first 2 rows are already sold out. Don't gamble it.
Right.
And see if the rest is sold out.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see everyone this Saturday. Doors open at 10 a.m. Better have your tickets in hand. Well, actually, when you order them online, you'll get your tickets at the door.
Yeah, I say you're going to see 2 new champions: Central States champion, Classic Heavyweight champion, and a returning Bruiser Brody champion.
I'm
There we
expecting
go.
to see some gold in the background, guys.
And definitely bring your markers or your pins, because Big Nasty Nate, he will love to sign some autographs for the Squared Ring podcast. But speaking for the Squared Ring podcast, guys, have a good night. We'll see you this weekend. It's going to be a blast. Go get your tickets now. But for us, you guys have a good night.
Good night.
All right.
See you
See you guys.
Saturday.